that, then let me turn to the state for your closing argument, or your first closing.
Thank you, Judge. Normally I would say thank you to the jurors for sitting through this trial, and I will thank you too for sitting through this trial and for listening to everybody. We started our case with 4 people who don't live here predominantly, who kind of travel back and forth, have 2 residents, maybe now established residents in Florida, but regardless, people who did not know these people. And they were on a boat where a victim, a person that they did not know, a young female, swam up to them. They had never seen her before, they had never talked to her before, and she's asking for some help because she's having a hard time swimming. And these 4 people gave slight inconsistencies on certain things, but agreed on others. And you heard from Matt Paris, who said he was in the water. You heard that he's talking to her for about a few seconds. She's trying to hold on to his raft. He's kind of like, just literally touch the boat, it's right there. And so he is saying that the boat is right there to where he is in relation to the water. He drew the graph, that states 1. And at that point, out of nowhere, this man comes up, who they also don't know, who they've also never interacted with. And this boat did not see them throughout the day as much. And yes, he had seen the female in the red bathing suit because she was over there in another boat. He was not lusting after this woman. He was not sitting there. He made a casual joke in a deposition. Maybe it was in bad taste. He made it, and it was not about his wife seeing or anything like that. It was just, he saw her, he noticed her. She's a beautiful woman. She's wearing a red-orange bathing suit. She is noticeable. And so this man comes up out of nowhere and pushes her under the water. He doesn't say that it's with 1 hand, he says it's with 2. He says he wants to believe the best in people. He's a middle school teacher. And he says that he gives it a few seconds, that he's waiting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 10 to 15 seconds that they agree, past 5, that she's under the water. And he has to intervene at that point. The other people on the boat start yelling at him, you have to do something. He reacts and pulls her out from under, and he says that she is fighting him when she gets into his hands, his possession, that she's fighting him off. Because she still thinks that she's being submerged by her boyfriend. You heard from Rachel Tarapchik. Rachel says that she threw the victim a little floated because she was looking like she was having a hard time swimming. That Matt was in the water. That his actions of the defendant looked deliberate. That there was no situation where he was using her as a life raft. Alexander agreed with those testimonies and then said he had to threaten him with a boat hook because after taking her away, it looked like he was going back to grab her. So he threatened him with a boat hook. This is a man who has a very nice boat. He has an affluent boat. He looks like he's coming from money too, and he's getting involved in something he didn't ask for and having to use a boat hook to do so because he doesn't know what's about to happen. He doesn't know who these people are to each other. And the one thing that they all agree on, all 4 of these people on this boat, is that when he is confronted with this boat hook and he is told to get away from her, he says, that's my girl. And then when he's told, I don't care who she is to you, you can't do this to her. Silence. Silence. He had enough wherewithal to say, that's my girl, but he didn't have enough wherewithal to say, no, that's not what happened. He's the only one who says, I was having a hard time swimming, and then that's what he said. Mr. Goldberg is the only one who said that. Nobody else said that. They all agree that the victim went under. So we go to the next vote, and Lloyd Whiting, he says that he saw that they had been getting into a little back and forth all day, that they had been arguing. He says that the victim and the defendant swim past his boat. And he says it distinctively because he says, she didn't stop at our boat, she kept going. It's a boat of 6 guys versus a boat with older people. What looks safer? She literally swims by a whole boat and keeps going. But what is important to understand and to remember is that so does Mr. Goldberg. So is the boat at this point not 25? Is that not at the breaking point? Does he just suddenly overcome with tiredness? Does he suddenly just stop and can't go on, except he does go on? He does go another 25 yards? Because if you're experiencing this panic, you're not gonna look around and see where can I hold on to, because you're not in the stage 1 yet. If we're going by Dr. Leatherman's assessment, you're in that pre-stage. And that pre-stage, you can still think. So he swims by that boat, and that's what you also hear from Mr. Whiting. The things that defendant says that no one agrees with are that they weren't fighting that day, that they weren't arguing that day. He insists that they weren't arguing. He keeps diminishing and downplaying their arguments that they apparently have all the time. And it makes you wonder, which one is it? Is she so jealous and out of control? Is she just such an unreasonable, illogical woman that she can't simply bear to be anywhere near him with other females? And it's just ridiculous how she is. Or is it that they never argue at all? How is that possible? It's just not. It doesn't make sense. The other thing that he testified to, that the victim wasn't upset, except then she's now upset because he didn't stand up for her. But then we start parsing our words, and it was interesting that every time that the defense witnesses, including the defendant, were confronted with statements that they made. Oh, I didn't want to parse. I'm not getting into the detail. I wasn't parsing words. What do you mean you're not parsing words? Those are literal opposite words. Those are not words that you're just being general and you don't get into specifics. You literally said Cole was upset. And then now you're saying, no, he wasn't. You're literally saying Cole was arguing with the guy that smacked his girlfriend's butt, which makes perfect sense to most people. And now it's, no, they were having a conversation. The two words argument and conversation, they're not used in the same sense. They're just not. They're not interchangeable. Neither is upset and not upset. Completely unbothered was what they wanted you to believe today. Except that they didn't say that day. Anthony Nemo did not say that day. Cole Goldberg did not say that day. This was about respect. He said that. My relationship. Respect me. Because she's mine. That's how he said that to the police. And then now all of a sudden it's, I'm not mad. The only person that said that Cole Goldberg grabbed onto the Terepchek's boat after the victim went under is Cole Goldberg. He is the only one who said he held onto the platform, he got a minute, he really took a second, took some deep breaths, and then miraculous recovery and swim to Captain Judy's boat. The only one who said that. Nobody else said that. Things that don't make sense. The defendant not calling anybody for a ride when he was getting kicked off Doopy's boat, when he had already done that once before that day. He literally did that. He took his phone, he called somebody, they came with paddleboards. He didn't even try. You didn't hear him say, I did try, and I didn't know anybody else that was there. I called a few people, they all left. I looked around. I know everybody, it seems like everybody knows everybody, but no longer. We don't know anybody anymore. Can't ask anybody. FWC apparently gives rides to the shore. Mr. Goldberg said that. He said previous Boca Bashes, he himself has gotten rides to the shore by FWC. No call to FWC is made. 911, none. He didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't DUI. He wasn't driving a boat. So what would have been the problem with calling the police and asking for the ride that apparently he's received before? Not asking the boat that he's sitting in, that he just magically, oh, we found 2 more life jackets. And it's, you guys can ride. You have 30 seconds to get to her. Oh, hey, can I just take one of the life jackets really quick? I'll be right back. I'm just a little tired and I've had a bit to drink. Is it okay if I take one of the life jackets? And by the way, my girlfriend has been going drink for drink with me. She weighs 70 pounds less than I do. So maybe the life jacket for her too. Thanks. Doesn't do that. Doesn't call the police after he's been allegedly assaulted. He was assaulted with a boat hook for literally no reason, according to him. Didn't call anybody. Actually, in fact, he goes back. Goes back to where he was supposed to be assaulted at. The guy still had the boat hook. You didn't hear anybody say that he threw it into the ocean, just let it go. So he's going back to where there's a weapon that has already been brandished against him. And that's just because he simply can't leave his girlfriend there. Not telling the police what just happened. Any of it. Making an assumption, that's what we have to believe. Making an assumption, oh, that's why they don't want me on the boat because there's too many guys. What? They're like 40-year-old women. His girlfriend. What kind of boat is this? There's another young guy, okay. What are we trying to say here? Why would they not let him on the boat because there's too many guys? That makes literally no sense, but that's what he tells, that's the first thing he tells the police. I was assaulted by a boat hook. I'm just trying to get to shore. My girlfriend and I didn't have a ride. Yeah, he tells them that he didn't have a ride. Doesn't tell them about the boat hook. Doesn't tell them about the fact that he's just been accused of drowning. And he does know. He does know that he was accused of drowning her. He knows that. Because if you want to believe his story, let's go all the way, right? Let's go the whole way. If you want to believe that he did this in response to having a drowning episode, then you also have to believe that he had the wherewithal, seconds, 1 to 2 seconds of holding her, he's able to gain enough wherewithal to then respond, I was having a hard time swimming. What is he saying that in response to? Counsel, 2 minutes. So, doesn't tell the police what happened. He doesn't get there until he gets to the point where he is confronted with the direct fact of, did you ever grab her? And now he oh, I can't swim. I was having a hard time. I was having a hard time swimming. Said it a few times, though, that they didn't let him on the boat because he was the only guy. A few times, and he agreed with that. The victim swam more than he did, and he drank just as much as she did. But he's the one that's having the drowning episode. The guy who has grown up around Lake Boca. The guy who has grown up in an affluent, because defense has gone to great lengths to say, this is an affluent neighborhood. Okay, great. There's a pool in the country club. There's a pool in his house. His friends have boats. His family used to have a boat. They used to go out. He's been at Boca Bash at least 10 times. He's been in sticky situations in Boca Bash because he's had FWC drive him to the shore or to the dock. And this is the person we have to believe did have a hard time swimming. This is the person we have to believe had the wherewithal to know north, south, east, west, could basically draw us a diagram of the entirety of Lake Boca, give us the currents and the channels and everything under the sun, but he drank too much that day. So which one is it? His memory is perfect and crystal clear, but he forgot some things. His memory is perfect and crystal clear, but he drank too much and he couldn't swim. It doesn't make sense. And looping all that in to motive, because who has motive here? You can argue, yes, of course, Caroline Schwitzsky has motive, and I'm sure that the entirety of closing would once again be a character assassination of Caroline Schwitzsky, as was the opening. But unfortunately for them, they cannot say that the 4 people on Sarachek's boat and the 2 people on the other boat had any motive for the outcome of this case. If they had any motive at all, what had they gained from this other than dragging them along for this entire pendency of this case? Nothing. They have had nothing to gain. Maybe, yeah, Caroline Schwitzsky has something to gain. Sure, you can make that argument. She's civilly lawsuit. She is a victim of a crime. Maybe she's exploiting that to her benefit. But you know who else has something to gain? Cole Goldberg. Cole Goldberg has something to gain. Cole Goldberg wants to be an attorney. Cole Goldberg said this derailed his plans for law school. Cole Goldberg is the one that has the most to lose in this case, and the most to gain in this case. And so these 6 people that testified for this court, I'm racking my brain to find out what that motive is. What on earth compels 6 people to come in and say something if it didn't happen that way? What gives them the motivation to cook up a story like this? If it was just a misunderstanding, why would they double down on things? Why would they say, no, that's not true, that's not what happened?
Council time.
I'll be back for the rebuttal.
Please the court. Opposing counsel. Judge, this is a difficult case to argue. I don't disagree with Ms. Suarez about 6 people, but we'll talk about perceptions. And the only analogy I can use is something that happened to me 2 weeks ago. I just finished a homicide trial. I'm sitting at my desk doing some Zoom demos. Marine cameras are going off like crazy. And I see 2 men at my front door. The newspapers, we were old-fashioned, we get newspapers delivered. One's in a red sleeve, and the other one's a Palm Beach Post in a clear sleeve. And they don't bring it to my door, they throw them in the driveway, and I see these 2 guys throwing my newspapers against the door, and they're pushing each other and screaming at each other, and I could not make out what they're saying. I live in a gated community, and I'm like, what's going on here? I'm trying to pay attention to my deposition, I'm trying to watch this, and it looks like they're possibly breaking into the house, but they didn't grab the doorknobs, and then I'm watching my cars in the driveway. I could not figure this out. To me, these 2 grown men looked like they were doing some shenanigans at my home. And then I see them in the driveway pushing each other and fighting and possibly joking around. This is in broad daylight. I live at the very end of a community. The last house, there's really no houses I can see anything. My camera showed it. I'm about to call the police, and I said, I see these guys going to the street, come back to my door, go to the street, look in my car. For the life of me, I thought these guys were about to break in. I see a golf cart in front of one of my driveways, and I'm like, guys don't break into homes with golf carts usually. It's unusual. So I called my neighbor. I wasn't worried about him. I said, can you just look outside and tell me what's going on? I know he's retired. So I see him on the camera, so he goes up to the guys, and I don't know what they're saying. I can't hear, but basically he tells me it's a father and son. The son's a grown man, and he's severely autistic. And the father's shoulder just got pulled out, and he can't control this young man. And he was fixated with my newspapers, and he couldn't stop him. And I told him it's right. I could have easily called the police and said these guys are trespassing, potential burglars. And I think it's akin to what happened here. In this case, we have 6 people. We know alcohol is definitely a factor with everybody. Everyone's having a good time. They're all drinking. And they believe, and they're so invested because they spent 4 years in this, they don't want to be wrong. People don't want to be wrong. And the long cases go on, they want to be right. And I'm not saying they made this story up. It did happen. Cole Goldberg told you it happened. Their perception is it looked like he was trying to drown her. They didn't know, these people, or what happened. They didn't have the benefit of sitting through a trial. That's why we have trials. That's why we explore everything in front of a judge or a jury in this country, so you can hear everything available. So the real question comes down to, not did it happen? It's like, what was his intent? And I'm not going to sit here and go through all the testimony. I know the court is an experienced jurist, experienced trial lawyer. You heard it all. You listened to everything. You know that people were generally saying the same thing. There were some inconsistencies. It was 1 second, maybe under pushing by the head. Other person said 30 seconds or 10 seconds. Another person said 4 Mississippi. Everyone's all over the place, but they're all agreeing it happened. My client told you it happened. You got to meet him. As far as personality, this is a docile young man. You can see the way he testifies. That's just who he is. He's just a young man getting his life together. And I'm not going to judge him for who he picked, and that was his decision. I'm sure his family wasn't happy about his relationship. That was his choice. He loved this lady. And love is blind. Lust and love is doubly blind. I'm sure that's what was going on in this young man's life. So much so, he forgot his career. He's now watching kids. It's not what he bargained for, but it's what he chose. He agreed to pay for money, for a car, for rent was the testimony. He didn't care. That's just who he is. Didn't bother, even today. It doesn't bother him. Tell him when he testified. No, that was my choice. That was just who Cole Goldberg is. You heard he was peaceful among his friends in the community. But you can look back and it's easy for me to say, you're stupid or an idiot for doing this. Look at the trouble you got yourself into. That's not really the truth. That's not what happened. It was his choice. It was both their choices. She's telling you he lied about his age. She still stayed with him for 6 more months. What's that have to do with anything? Whether he did or didn't. They both agreed to stay with each other. This lady's an opportunist. She's a reality TV star. She's on all kind of shows. The evidence came out and articles trying to profit from this. She's an opportunist. That's what she is. So she's trying to fit the narrative to make it look like I was really a victim. Not only was I a victim, he stuck his nails. He said in her vagina, in deposition was the testimony, under oath, she said that. And in her other statement for her restraining order, she said in my groin area. Either way, that never came out anywhere. The court didn't see any photos or physical injuries on this lady. The officer with the big hat, I forgot his name. Thank you, Hudson. Very inexperienced guy. He did the best he could. It's not easy probably to conduct an investigation out in the water. But he's out there telling the guys in the other boat, this is attempted murder. This is, what if this was your daughter? And just everyone's now reinforcing this guy tried to kill or drown this lady. They didn't realize what was happening. Because one of the guys in the other boat with the 6 men thought you got to be flapping around and splashing. Frankly, I thought that too. And that's why we called an expert to tell you this court, it can happen in silence. It can happen very quick. The 2 FWC officers both testified based on their training. Drowning can happen very quick and very silently. It's not like Hollywood, where we can imagine, because most of us, I've never seen anyone drown, thank God. But also the testimony is some parents see their kids possibly drowning. They don't even realize their kids are drowning because there's no signs. It just happens. There's signs to the person drowning. And Dr. Ledman explained what happens to people when they have that feeling. Cole Goldberg told you his experience. First time in his life. He was seeing dark. He was in a room. Is that hard to believe? So in this case, I submit to you, yeah, you can believe all 6 of these people. I'm not telling you not to believe them. They believe what they saw. But how do you determine beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Goldberg's intent was to kill the lady he loved, that he wanted to be with, that he sacrificed his dating life, whatever. He chose her, he chose her kids, he chose to pay her money, even when her car got damaged. He didn't care. This is who he chose. She wants you to believe they broke up in the morning, or that was the intonation, or what she tried to get the court to believe. That we broke up. I would tell them in the morning we had problems. The only one that ever had problems was her. You heard her. I demand respect. So when he gets a phone call from a girl about a boat, all of a sudden he's cheating on her. Ex-girlfriend, friends, he's fighting with her at a restaurant, at Rocco's Tacos. At a time, I guess Mexican. Fighting with her for what? It's all nonsense. It really has nothing to do with the case other than to show Your Honor that this guy's not jealous of her. He doesn't care she's wearing a spring bikini and guys are looking at her. He doesn't even do anything. Mr. Nemo told Mimo, not Nemo, but Mimo, from New Jersey with a heavy accent, will heavy their mind, basically said, I would have beat that guy up. I don't know how he just stood there and did nothing. That's who he is. That's his personality. He may not be like me, or you, or Mr. Mimo or somebody else. That's his personality. He didn't do anything. So the only arguments they had, he said, we don't have arguments. She's always arguing with him. She's jealous of him. She's worried because he's a younger guy with a future career. She latched on to him. What her motives are, you know now, her motives are money. She sued him. She's trying to get money. She's trying to get fame on this. He didn't give one interview, he said. Nothing. She gave plenty. She's piggybacking on a tragedy to make money. It is what it is. That's who she is. She latched on to this young man. And he loved her. At least he thought he did. I'm sure he's looking back now saying, how stupid was I? But it happened. Because it's so hard to believe. He admitted he was drinking all day long. That's what people do at Boca Bash. He's allowed to drink. He's of age. He was drinking. 5 drinks, 3 more drinks, another 3. He didn't count them. No one counts drinks when you're out there all day. If you have one to remember. But he was honest. The only one who told you he had probably 11 drinks that day or more. So he was drinking all day long. Everyone else was like, oh, we weren't drinking. I don't drink, but then you heard some other evidence that they were drinking. There's alcohol in their boats. Oh, I only had 4 beers. What's the difference? Everyone's out there drinking. That affects people's perception. More importantly, it affected his ability to swim. That's common sense. The court doesn't need an expert for that. We know if you're out there in the hot sun, you're not properly hydrating, you're not eating properly. I don't care what shape you're in. If you're doing that and you're drinking all day long, it's not a smart idea to get in the water. But he did. These are the facts. This lady comes in here and Ms. Schwitzsky tells you he throws the guy into the propeller. Why should you believe that when there's 0 evidence of that? What's her motive for getting this court to believe he's violent and dangerous? She's trying to fit the narrative to show that he really strangled her like a rag doll back and forth. So maybe if she did that, there'd be some injuries on her. Not the 2 little dots, the guy with the hat said. 2 little dots. Hudson, thank you. There's no 2 little dots. Look at those pictures. There's nothing on her. Suarez said at one point, when we were getting into the injuries and the bruises, that's nothing to do with this case. I agree. Bruises on the arm and leg have 0 to do with this case. There's no injuries from this case whatsoever. And if you grab somebody like her, choke their neck, he's a strong guy, it works out. She has some injuries, some marks. Why is the paramedics not called? Why are 6 reasonable people, if they really thought he was trying to hurt her, why would they call 911? I almost called 911 because guys were playing by my door and screaming at each other. I didn't even know who they were. And I had my neighbor investigate it. And then he told me, poor guy has a severely autistic son, he has to go to the hospital, shoulders pulled out. I shut my camera off, I wasn't worried. It was over. Thank God I had my neighbor to do that. I would call the police and hopefully nothing bad would happen, but why did these guys call? Who wouldn't call the police if you really see something or you believe somebody's trying to kill somebody and you're a normal person? Dial 911, let them figure it out. Doesn't matter if it's on the water, it doesn't matter if it's in your home or you're just visiting another state, call the police. If you really believe, testimony was they weren't even going to call the police until he came back. That's the emergency? You really think someone had the intent? That's nonsense. You have thought someone had the intent to commit a crime. You can break into a car. If you see someone breaking into somebody's car, the average person will call the police. Never mind trying to strangle someone, duck them under the water intentionally. This goes through they're wrong. They're just not believable that the evidence is not beyond all reasonable doubt that my client intentionally strangled this woman. Contrary to that, no physical evidence whatsoever. Testimonies all over the place in that. Tried to murder her, attempted 2nd degree, ill will, hatred, spite, evil intent. Opposite of that. This guy was madly, at least he thought he was madly in love. This is my girlfriend. He's proud of her. Won't even fight another man who slapped her in the butt. That's who he is. Doesn't matter, maybe right, maybe wrong, who cares? That's just his personality. You saw him on the witness stand. He's calm. When this Suarez was going after him, yes ma'am, no ma'am, straightforward. He judges credibility. You see witnesses every day for years. You saw her personality. Ms. Schwitzsky. Like I said, she's an opportunist that's trying to fit the narrative. She tells the police nothing happened. She wants you to believe, well, I'm an abused woman. I was loving him. He's a nice, sweet boy. So I didn't want to say anything. She's on probation, she's not allowed to leave the county. She comes with a lot of baggage. It's not my client versus Ms. Schwitzsky, but she's an important witness. And my position is she has very little, if no credibility whatsoever in this trial. So then it comes down to the 6 people that testified, and Mr. Goldberg, and his friends. Mr. Limo from New Jersey, who runs a contracting business for his family. It's agreed upon he can testify. So the state now saying, well, why are you not here? What relevance does that have? The court heard him. You got them to see him. Told you what happened. He told you there was no problem all day long. The guy whose boat it was told Sebastian, said no problem, everything was fine. From the moment they got up and entered his home, it didn't look like they were not a couple anymore, they were breaking up. That's a fallacy. He just wants the court to believe that, to show that he's a bad guy. We were having problems all day long. And Ms. Perlickins up here, she says, no, I agree, I wanted to stay. Cole did too, but it was me, I wanted to stay. Who would want to stay if you're having problems all day long? It makes no sense. 0 sense. It's not realistic. Not at all. It's not even realistic. She had her phone in her hand. Never mind. She's saying she's being strangled and she drops her phone. Phones sink. In the salt, the regular water, phones are going straight down. How did she magically have her phone on the boat? Where that picture was taken. You saw that picture, Judge. She had her phone. Did she really drop her phone? It magically appeared on the boat again? I'm going to find that phone very easily. If it dropped to the floor, because it never happened. She didn't drop the phone. She had it in her hand the whole time. That was the issue with the phone. That's why the phone is somewhat important. She's talking about her bag and the phone being thrown through. That's nonsense. It never happened. She had her phone, is the bottom line. She says she dropped it. There's no way she dropped it. This is an unfortunate event. People saw what happened. They jumped to conclusions. And you can tell by them not calling 911. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's what most people would do. Not one of the 6 people called for paramedics, called 911. She had no injuries. She had 0 marks on her body. She wasn't coughing up water, was a testimony. And this guy doesn't even know what's going on. Who would try to kill somebody and then go back to the boat? One of the guys in the 2, I think it was riding a board, said he was hanging on the back of the boat. And that's when the boat hook came. It's not just him saying it like Ms. Suarez wants you to believe. He was hanging back in the boat. And I think Ms. Schwitzsky said the same thing the very first time. And then Mr. Bowman and Mr. Tarachek lost his temper very quick and jumped to conclusions for whatever reason. He's threatening with a gaff. He can't figure it out. What normal person who's sober, even if you're not sober, if you really try to kill somebody or injure someone intentionally, who then leaves, will come back for their girlfriend that you just tried to murder, that broke up with you for throwing a can at her head when there's nothing on her head or face. That's nonsense too. That never happened. She's a jealous woman. She's afraid she's going to lose her meal ticket. The guy with the future parents, the family comes from a long line of lawyers was a testimony. This is her meal ticket. This is her future. So reality stuff makes nothing. That's why she's out there doing stuff right now, trying to promote it to make more money. But this is the guy who's going to go to law school. He's going to be famous. He's going to be a big lawyer. He's going to live in a country club like his parents. We stay in his guest house. Now it's over. It's over. So she's trying to capitalize on it again, because that's who she is. She's an opportunist, a person who tries to seek opportunities any way she can. So how do you determine? It's hard when you get 6 people from the community who doesn't know anyone, like Ms. Suarez said. Easy. You put it all together. No police calls, nothing. If he didn't come back, you never would have heard of Cole Goldberg's name. If he didn't come back to the boat the second time, no one would have heard of him. They weren't calling the police. It was not a big deal. It turned into a big deal because now you get group mentality, and all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh yeah, this is what happened," and you get an inexperienced officer who's pushing them. Write these statements. "Oh yeah, we're going to go to court in this. Make sure you come to court. Make believe this is your own daughter. This is an attempted murder." That's it. So I understand why we have to air this case out. I'm not saying it's a nonsense case, because it's not. It's real. It really did happen. But really, the moment of truth, and this lady goes under the waters, it's so hard to believe this man who was intoxicated, like the police said, wasn't falling down drunk, not highly intoxicated, according to the guy of Hudson. Not highly, but it was intoxicated. He doesn't deny it. Of course he was intoxicated. It's a fact. That's what happened. He had trouble swimming. The expert could tell you that there are different stages when you get into the distress part. That's exactly what he was in, distress. He may not even went in first. He was close to it. Who knows? But do you believe that he maliciously tried to drown Caroline Schwitzsky intentionally? If you do, then he's guilty. There's nothing I can say. And if you have a reasonable doubt, then he's not guilty. We submit, Ms. Corlett and I, based on all this evidence, that he's not guilty at all, any of these charges. There was no intent. There was no maliciousness at all. He made a mistake. He made a lot of mistakes in his life already at a young age. And it almost cost him his own life, actually, by drowning. He could have easily been a drowning victim and died silently, like Dr. Leatherman says happens all the time. And alcohol is the major contributor, he said. No drowning deaths, it's the number one contributor. He almost was a statistic. So he's lucky he's here and not somewhere else facing Your Honor by signing this case, because he could have easily been a stat. So that's the story. That's what happened, Your Honor. I think these people misperceived. Their perceptions are off. They didn't want to be wrong. And beyond a reasonable doubt, we don't think Your Honor can say that he's guilty. So we're asking to find him not guilty of all the charges. Thank you very much, Your Honor. And I'm sorry we used the postage, Judge. Those are for a jury trial, so no way I would not do that to Your Honor.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Just trying to get the podium more important. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. It's a rare day that a domestic violence case is going to have 6 independent eyewitnesses. A rare day. A day I don't think I've ever seen. What's not rare at all is witnesses who are seeing something and they don't want to say anything, who don't come to court. I think it is very common for people to see things and not say anything. And that's really sad, but it is true. And for an officer to try and get people to say what happened and give their name so that he doesn't have to just put anonymous and then leave the prosecutors with nothing, that's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. Because something happened here. But what Ms. Schwitzsky did that day, whether you believe she exaggerated on things, then sure, believe that. I agree that she had motive. I said that. But it's difficult for me to reconcile this idea that she is this literally horrible person, right? She's a horrible person, according to defense. Because there's really no other way to say it. She's an opportunist. She's a money-grabbing person. She has pinned this poor boy, because he's a 23-year-old, but we called him a boy a few times in opening. And this poor boy was just manipulated and controlled by this evil woman who just flew off the handle all the time and attacked, like him on things about not being a man and doing all these things. And that person, the person who posted things on Instagram, who shaved her head for $15,000, who made a joke about being a victim on a comedy special, that person did not tell the police what happened. And that's not her saying that. And that's not even the 6 people saying that either. It's her saying that, the 4 people on the boat saying that, the officer saying that. Ms. Schwitzsky did not give a statement on that boat when the officers boarded her boat. Defense went to great lengths to elicit that the victim, when she was pulled on that boat, completely fine, according to them, what was the first thing that came out of her mouth? He's a good boy. He's trying to go to law school. Sounds a lot like a DV victim to me. Sounds a lot like somebody who's just in a really terrifying situation who cannot reconcile the horrible thing that just happened to them with the person that they love. I'm not standing up here saying that Cole Goldberg is a bad person. That is literally not what anybody is saying from our side. But bad people do good things and good people do bad things. People make mistakes, intentional mistakes. They make choices, and those choices can lead to problems. And he made a series of choices on that day, on April 24th, 2022. And those choices led to being here. This is not a mistake. This is not an almost he is in the grave situation. This was intentional. He intentionally jumped off that boat to pursue her after she said it was over, because he did not want to accept that. It was a summer fling, except it was 9 months long. It was a summer fling, and he was going to break up with her when he got to law school, but he actually said, no, I wasn't doing that. I had no intention of breaking up with her. It was a day-by-day event, but literally no end in sight. Okay? So, what do you mean? This person was just drowned by the man she loves. Whether she knew it was ending or not, she loved him. And he did this to her, and the person who is supposed to be exploiting every opportunity ever doesn't exploit the opportunity when it matters, when they're talking to police. And then they went to great lengths to show this picture about how she is surprised when he got arrested. So yeah, right, she was surprised when he got arrested. She is literally not educated in the law. She has no idea what's going on. She couldn't even answer if she was a convicted felon. She didn't know anything. She was signing papers left and right. I'm not saying she didn't try to intentionally sue him, but what I am saying is that she was shaken to her core that this officer made a determination of probable cause for attempted murder without her saying a word. That's not uncommon. The shock, apologizing, diminishing, giving all the good about them, that is behavior of a domestic violence victim. We are supposed to believe that it is relevant that the Pennsylvania witnesses asked for proper service, which is a court order by the judge because of the interstate compact agreement, but we are not supposed to think about the fact that one of his best friends couldn't get on a plane and come down here and testify when he's here half of every month. And this is one of those months. So if it's not relevant that the PA people had to be served with a lawful subpoena, as all out-of-state witnesses can, and they waived, by the way. So there wasn't a writ. Your Honor didn't sign a writ. So it's not relevant either way then. Cool, sounds good. Mark that off. We don't need that. But you have to take into consideration, apparently, that his friend, who was impeached, pretty blatantly so, I would add, about the fact that the only thing that he could actually literally say anything about was this fight that took place, this argument that took place about this guy and this guy groping her. Okay? And he literally got impeached on that one thing. Like, toss that. Angela Rada, his ex-girlfriend, great. He's a great person in the community. Nobody's refuting that. She wasn't there. She didn't see this. The propensity for being good does not discredit that somebody is capable of doing something bad. And that is the end of that. This is not a trial to show that he was a bad person. It is a trial to show that on April 24th, 2022, he had a reaction.
2 minutes, counsel.
And that reaction led to a pursuit, and that pursuit led to a scary event where but for Matt Paris intervening, then Caroline Schwitzsky would have been a statistic, and it's a different one. It wouldn't have been a drowning statistic. It would have been the statistics of domestic violence victims. Some people bring out the worst in you, and I think that these two were a match made in a not good place. These two people did not bring out the best of each other. And that showed. That showed on that day. Maybe he had never gotten jealous before, okay. Maybe it wasn't about jealousy though. Maybe it was about the ending of that relationship. Maybe it was about something else. I don't have to go into his brain and know exactly why he did it, but I do need to know it wasn't a mistake, and it wasn't. Because interestingly enough, Dr. Stephen Leatherman said himself that when you are in stage 1, you can't see. You can't see. Your animal brain has activated. You are in fight or flight. And Mr. Goldberg testified on direct examination that the only thing he could see was her, and that is why he grabbed her, because it was her. He was not drowning. Try as they might, it's not close. He was not drowning. So what's the second part? If he's not drowning, then why on earth are his hands right next to her shoulders? Why on earth is this 200-pound football player thinking that his girlfriend, who is 130 pounds, you have pictures of her, she's tiny, she's gonna keep him up? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because it's not true. Injuries, and I have one more second just to finish my sentence.
You're good.
Injuries are not dispositive of the elements. There are no elements that we have in this case that require injuries. Domestic battery by strangulation does not require injuries. Attempted murder does not require injuries if it is under the part that we are going under, and also battery doesn't require injuries. So let's stop talking about the bruises. There's something on her neck, look at the picture. If you don't see that there's something on her neck, fine, that's fine. Has nothing to do with whether it happened or not. He went back to that boat because he knew it was over. He knew it was over for his career. He knew it was over for his life. He knew that if he didn't try to talk to Caroline Schwitzsky, to get a pulse on her, to figure out what is going on, are you mad at me? Are you gonna say anything? Help. Why is he crying? He doesn't have memory of the drowning event for Stephen Leatherman, so he's crying? Why? Because they didn't let him on the boat? He knew what he was being accused of, and he panicked, and he went back to his girlfriend to see if she was going to protect him, to see if she was going to tell the cops what she actually experienced. That's why he went back. And they didn't call 911 because they didn't want to get involved, and he was the trigger. He went back, and he was the danger, and they said enough is enough. You've heard everything. You know the law. We're asking for you to find him guilty on all counts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warren.